Appreciate everyone's participation. Just really quickly, I wanted to give everybody a membership update. So since our last meeting in January, we've officially added Celia Nunez, the Deputy Director of the Office of Community College and Workforce Development, or CCWD from the HEC, which is the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. So welcome, Celia. And I think a couple other folks maybe added some information or photos to their slides. So you're welcome to go check out those advisory council slides anytime you would like to, just to get to know the crew and learn a little about each other. So just wanted to bring that up. And I think we'll move into the state director updates. I don't know who would like to go first.
I can go ahead and go first. Thank you, Melinda. Janelle Ives, the Director of the Secondary Post-Secondary Transitions Team and CTE State Director. I do have a couple things I want to highlight today. Our communications campaign is wrapping up this week. So I hope some of you who listen to Pandora or other streaming platforms on video have had the opportunity to see some of the videos and campaigns for CTE. If not, I've put a link in there to our landing page now. We have an easy to find landing page at ODE, which is like a rare occurrence. It's oregon.gov/CTE. And so we've tried to make it more family and student friendly, which is again, not necessarily a state agency's prime audience in general, but you'll see a lot of great videos here from students and programs across the state, and we have resources to use. So we're looking for anecdotal stories about how this has had an impact. I know that I've received, at least from some employers, I've had about 5 different employers reach out to me after this campaign saying, I didn't know about CTE. I'd like to be involved. So that to me was a huge win. And I think we have more to do to connect with employers across. Enjoy it and use it. Also, career-connected learning is really gearing up to be more central to our work in our office, in our higher ed office, in ODE, and hopefully our push is that this will be a central theme in schools around career-connected learning. We just hired a new work-based learning specialist at the department. Brandy Clark is joining us from Beaverton. Her first day was Monday, and she's going to be a great addition to really help support the work-based learning work. And we are very hopeful that we are close to hiring a career-connected learning specialist. Well, it was one of the biggest and best pools I've ever seen of candidates at ODE. So there's a lot of interest from really great people in that position. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to move that forward and make an announcement soon. I also put in a link here. I hear there have been some questions about these navigators. So with our recovery fund, we do have money to create career-connected learning navigators. We made the conscious choice to house those at our community colleges. They are going to help build and support systems that already exist, fill in gaps in systems that don't exist, and really support educators in building those connections to business and industry and to college. And that college high school connection is so important. And I think that's an area that we're going to be really focusing on this summer at our network meeting. We're really hoping to really bring together our secondary, post-secondary partners and focus on that relationship. So these navigators will also play a part in that experience. Middle school, this is so exciting. We've heard loud and clear, we need to expand and get earlier. So we are working hard to expand down to middle school. We've been working on some career exploration videos as well. And I can drop in the link in a minute. They're called Career Journeys. And we've been creating a lot of educational materials for teachers and counselors to use in schools. And so you'll start to see that rolling out. We have a program called U Science that lets students find their aptitudes. And this has been a huge opportunity for schools to participate in that as well. And We are making a push finally in the state to have career information system, which is the state information system, be available for all Oregonians. So currently it's a subscription model. So some schools pay in to have this service, some colleges pay in, some work source sites and vocational rehab pay in, but we really want to have a place where any Oregonian can go, find out about their career path, find out about how to get scholarships and funding for paying for post-secondary education and training. It's something that then mentors could work, so our community-based organizations could use with the youth or adults that they engage with. And so this is going to be hopefully a really transformative shift in having one common system that we can help support and use. And so that is also coming. We're going to do some information sessions to build awareness of what this might look like. And we're making a recording. And of course, I will invite all of you to view that if you are interested in that. And that is my update from secondary. Donna or Celia?
Hi there. I will give today's update for post-secondary. In the future, Celia will probably join us, but I wanted to give her a chance to get settled in for her first meeting. I'm super excited to have her join our team. I wanted to talk a little bit about the recent investment in Future Ready Oregon. It is a pretty much a comprehensive $200 million investment supporting education and training for Oregonians. There are strategic and targeted investments that focus on advancing opportunities for our historically underserved communities. It originated with the Racial Justice Council Workforce Work Group, and it was led by the governor and championed by many legislators and partners during this last legislative session in February. The package actually invests in existing successful programs and in innovative equity-focused solutions to help bolster recruitment, retention, and career advanced opportunities for those key populations. Many of the funds are going to be administered by our agency, the HEC. We'll be working very closely with our local workforce development boards, community-based and culturally specific organizations, also education and training providers, employees or employers, and their surrounding communities. There are several buckets within that particular bill. One includes Prosperity 10,000, which are grants to the local workforce development boards. There are Workforce Ready grants, which will be competitive and be awarded to workforce service providers and community-based organizations that administer workforce programs in 3 key sectors: healthcare, manufacturing, and technology. There will be investment in industry consortia for 3 separate statewide consortia that will be established to represent healthcare, manufacturing, and technology. And the purpose of those will be to establish strategic partnerships, develop structured processes to address mutual industry goals, and industry-specific workforce needs. I can foresee that as those industry consortia get stood up, that there could be some connection and partnership between this advisory council and those industry consortia. So stay tuned as those things start to pull together. And then we also have the workforce benefits navigators. We have those located at our 24 public institutions. There will now be workforce navigators at the local workforce development board or the local WorkSource Oregon centers in communities. So that'll be great because as an Oregonian goes in either to a post-secondary institution or the WorkSource Oregon Center, and it's identified that they have basic needs, these benefit navigators can help get Oregonians connected. That'll be important for both our post-secondary students, but also our K through 12 students, as well, as their families are have more access points to these benefits. There's two things that I think really connect really well around career technical education on the post-secondary side. We, for the first time, have a stable investment in the post-secondary career pathways training programs. So we will have grants being awarded to the colleges for development and support of post-secondary career pathway training programs. And there will be connection, obviously, with our career technical education and programs of study in those places whenever possible. And that they will be also focused in on the priority populations with opportunities and student supports to obtain the necessary skills for securing a job. And then our credit for prior learning, this is really exciting. There will be grants awarded to the colleges and universities. These are one-time funds around increasing opportunities for students from priority populations to receive credit for prior learning for the knowledge and skills gained through work and life experience. So in other words, if you have a student who has been welding on a rural farm for years, and they can, what my husband would say, lay a stack of dimes, which means you have a very beautiful weld. If you are able to do that, you could potentially come into the post-secondary institution and get credit for prior learning for your skills and not have to sit through welding 1, for instance, to earn those 3 credits. You would just be granted that because you can already prove you can lay a stack of dimes. So just a couple of updates around that. If you have questions about Future Ready Oregon, I've included a link in the minutes in our minutes, so that you can go to our website that will have the latest and greatest information associated with it. And I know that Clay is also on here. Clay, from the Workforce Office of Workforce Investment or the Workforce Development Board, anything you'd add?
Oh, Donna, you did a great job of summarizing. I guess only one thing. The Workforce Ready grants are going out in 2 pieces. One is going to be more for direct services to participants, and the first is going to be more for capacity building for organizations. As Donna said, community-based and culturally specific organizations. So you should see that Workforce Ready grant go out for capacity building, hopefully within the next 30 days. And that'll be sort of the first effort. And then secondarily will be more program services. So if you're aware of any community-based organizations that might be interested, make sure to give them sort of a heads up. That would be great.
Great. That's it from post-secondary.
Thank you, Janelle and Donna.
If I can, Melinda, let me pop in real quick. Just from a show of hands, how many people actually attended the Talent Summit last week? Just kind of so that we can get a good idea and so forth. I just wanted to really play on Donna's comments and so forth with the rollout of Future Ready Oregon and so forth at the Talent Summit. What I was struck with, and I wanted to play off of your comments, Donna, was that our keynote speakers and several of our outside consultants all stated the same kind of a theme, and that is they've never seen a state with such a great amount of resources and a great amount of collaboration to move the efforts moving forward. And it kind of plays into the conversation we're going to have today in regard to the alignment. Is we have a lot of resources that are flowing into this field of workforce development and CTE. The difficulty and the challenge I think we have as an advisory council is to make sure that people understand that these resources are available and the paths to those resources or connections are critical. And so I just wanted to reiterate that to everybody that it's, I mean, I've been involved in career technical education, career pathway, kind of most of my career, just hoping that I can recruit employees for my organization in the future. And I've never seen a groundswell like we have at this point. So let's just keep that in mind. But I think that's a charge that we have to this group, is to make sure that we stay aligned and moving forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Now we're going to move into our subcommittee updates. So we'll have updates from all of the subcommittees except for alignment, who will be leading us through a deeper dive into that topic after our break. But I guess we'll move in and we'll have equity go first. So Carla and Elaine.
Yep. Hi, good morning, everybody. So the equity subcommittee has met a couple of times, and we've been discussing like what we find that might be issues around equity, around CTE. And we came up with some priorities that we wanted you all to look at and decide like what should we be working on first. So I put the link for the form, for the Google form in the agenda. I'm gonna copy it and then put it in the chat so everybody can participate, because I did see that some people responded, but not everyone. So we wanted to get some feedback from you guys so that we can move forward with some of the work we're trying to do. So how about, can we take about 5 minutes for everyone to complete the form? Okay, thank you.
Carla or Elaine, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, I mean, I can provide a little summary of the recommendations we were thinking for the full committee to look at. So look, and from the responses I'm seeing right now, it seems like the funding for CTE is one of the most critical pieces that we want to talk about. When we look at the funding for CTE, it varies between rural and urban areas, right? This is not something that new. I mean, we've known this for a while. So we wanted to make a call to do an audit on how we fund CTE programs from the K through 12 level all the way through post-secondary, right? So the programs of study cost about the same, right? The equipment costs about the same to help provide students with training. However, some schools might have just a handful of students and some have a lot. And when the funding is broken into per student, then it creates a divide on accessibility for quality programs of study for some of the students in their rural areas. So we really want to look at how the state is funding CTE programs of study across, and I know that there is a rural piece to help funding to help rural schools, but is it enough, right? So that's why we wanted to call the committee to see if we can, create to do an audit on the funding for CTE. The other two areas are, funding for students at the post-secondary level. So some of the students have other responsibilities, families, jobs, and it is very hard for them to take one or two classes to take a full load of classes at one time. They can only take one or two classes, and the way that they have to pay for these classes could create an access barrier as well. Then the other piece that we were looking at is to create what we're calling advocacy packages for students. So when we look at CTE and supporting CTE students, we look at, I look at it in a continuum base, right? So we need to help students have that learning environment, which means having their basic needs met, and then going through their CTE programs, and then being able to go into the workforce and afford to work, right? So we need to look at, so what resources we can provide to individuals throughout their entire CTE educational careers and perhaps beyond. So partnering more with social services agencies to help them achieve these goals. As we know, sometimes making $8 too much makes you ineligible for programs and services that might benefit your career or your livelihood. So that's the other piece that we had discussed. And then I think I skipped one, sorry. So the transition to workforce. So from CTE programs, that's another piece. So some of the, so right now with how things are, sometimes, the transition to the workforce might not be initially very successful for some students. So we wanted to help get more input and feedback from our workforce boards to help us create a more equitable resources or outcomes for students and participants in CTE. And the last couple of pieces were basically one of the recommendations that the committee has was to be like a second set of eyes to other subcommittees or to the larger council, since equity is so big and broad that it intersects with a lot of the work that it's being done around alignment and communication and other pieces around CTE. So that's one of the proposals that we have, to be, a second set of eyes for other committees or work that's being done around Oregon in terms of equity. And then another piece is that we wanted to really share like stories about job and career mobility in the form of a newsletter, or maybe collaborate with some of the work that's being done around that. I know that sometimes we get newsletters, I get newsletters from ODE about, like student success, student stories, and we really want to like collaborate with that and ensure that we have stories from, the workforce, students who are already working, students who are participating in the programs, and so on. So yeah, those are some of the pieces that we have talked about. And well, with the form, we really want to prioritize the work that we're going to be doing. So I'm looking forward to reading everyone's responses on that, and coming up with some ideas and stuff. And I mean, that's pretty much what we've been doing. So I don't know if anybody in the subcommittee group wants to share something else. Okay, well, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for the equity subcommittee?
Don't see any.
All right. Well, again, alignment will be later in the meeting, so let's switch gears and move over to the system of sharing / communication subcommittee. And Ben and Curtis.
Hi, I'm here. Curtis, are you there?
Yep.
Curtis, you want to lead us off and maybe start with the high level kind of overview?
Sure. Yeah, the biggest piece that we were thinking about was making sure that we gathered kind of a wide range of input before we started going off on exactly what all of the things that we wanted to share about were, or the ways that we wanted to share them, because of course, if we're not sharing on a message that people actually care about, we got to speak the language that's going to be meaningful and engaging. So we want to collect that feedback, and we also want to collect some input in terms of how that message could most effectively be shared, because we also want to make sure as we speak their language, we're speaking it in a format that actually works. So so that was what Ben and I and also the rest of the committee, our subcommittee, spent a good deal of time thinking about, was how do we structure that data, that feedback collection piece, in a way that's actually going to get us the info we need to then move forward in a meaningful way. So so when Ben and I sort of split out to sort of take the ideas from our subcommittee and subcommittee ourselves to put together, okay, what would those interview questions be like? What would those formats be? Sorry, I should have had this open earlier, but asking about, actually, sorry, Ben, do you have that open real quick? Because I wanted to reference the question specifically,
I can,
but I don't want to misreference it. So
let
me pull that up real quick.
So in our brainstorm, we talked a lot about what are the issues and concerns that folks have as it relates to communication, internal communication, external communication, interaction between participants, delivery of information, et cetera, et cetera. And then we asked, the next question was, what are the root causes of those concerns? And that led us into a massive conversation, which resulted in a Jamboard, which I put in the notes here in the subcommittee update notes. And there's just a ton of issues and concerns. And I want to start this summary off by saying, after I did some like rough draft interviews with some local stakeholders and emerging CTE teachers, what I learned is that even here at a local level, is just so much going on. Like Hal Jones in the Medford School District, he's coordinating dozens of programs, and he's one person. And then all these teachers that are involved, they're teaching many other classes along with CTE classes. And so everyone's just overwhelmed. They're wearing many caps. And so I kind of see that as a root problem and a root cause of miscommunication. And here on our Jamboard and on the first page, issues and concerns around systems of sharing and communication, of all the notes that are here, we put arrows around this one that says many principals don't know what CTE is or what CTE can be for their school or their students. And what's interesting is that as I started to have this conversation with building administrators, I had some informal interviews that I did not record. I found out that turnover is a huge problem. For example, North Medford High School is unfortunately losing their second principal in 2 years. So they'll be hiring a third principal at some point this spring. And so turnover is a huge problem, and that's a root cause. And I'd love to get into like these other notes because there's so many great notes. Like Hal Jones, for example, when I interviewed him, and the interview is here in the subcommittee updates. I put the link to the interview. And I want to apologize. That's a rough draft interview. That's not a highly polished interview at all. So it's for us, just for folks in the CTE world. But he said one of his big concerns is he wants to figure out how folks in the CTE world can work with BOLI, Bureau of Labor and Industries, and ODE to help provide an infrastructure for communication for industry employers to feel confident they can hire age 16 plus high school students as employees, especially students that are in these CTE programs. So I went into the weeds there a little bit, but as you can see, there are concerns, and none of that has to do with anyone not caring or not trying hard enough. It's just that everyone's overwhelmed and turnover is a problem. And then in our Jamboard, you can review the ensuing slides. The next one's potential root causes for these issues. And I talked about turnover, but there's some other great points here. And then we have what is currently being done across the state, and then areas for growth, and then best practices and strategies. So that's kind of where I'm going to hand it back to Curtis.
Yeah, and so that was where we started in terms of that Jamboard and the kind of history of what we were thinking about. And then yes, a big piece has been highlighted there of turnover. So our big focus as we go forward was really trying to think about how can we design a system of communication where the understanding of what needs to be shared and how is kind of spread across a variety of people. So that's where, for me, sort of starting with what are the assets that we already have, who are the communicators or the people who hold knowledge that we already have around us, was a place where I think it would be a good place to begin. So thinking about our teachers being in contact with our industry advisory panels, that those folks would be a place where we could hopefully consistently use a system that already is in place of communication and what needs to be communicated and how. Thinking also about some of the folks on this call of our regional CTE coordinators being people who will be able to reflect back to us. So Ben or I or somebody else sends out a message and it bounces back, or we go, dang it, that person's not in that seat anymore. How do we figure that out? How do we replace that person who's now left? So making sure that our regional coordinators are part of the communication as well, so that way they can alert the people who are trying to do the communication to exactly what Ben just described of, oop, that principal's not here anymore. So here's our new person, or here's our new contact, that kind of thing. So really trying to focus on that sustainability of the communication network was a big piece of it. So that it's not just a single person. And then when that single person leaves, this whole group that we are in right now just goes back to square one. needing to figure out or reverse engineer how all of this worked. So that was a big piece of it. So like Ben described, contacting and getting info from stakeholders through interviews, through some focus group conversations, and then as we have that data, how do we use it? How do we move it out? Yeah, a big piece of it was focusing on how do we build a network of communicators so that one person leaves, the whole network doesn't fall apart, or the whole system doesn't fall apart. And so in terms of things that we wanted to ask about, making sure again that we're speaking people's language in a way that they care about, thinking about what are some short-term roles or short-term CTE needs or goals that you have, because it doesn't, we want to focus on both the need or the plans, the desires, and also on the assets. What are people proud of? What are they excited to share about? Because that might also be a vein that, oh my gosh, I didn't know my neighboring district had that. Because we have so many small districts, I didn't know my neighbors had that. We can totally do that. We have this, I love as a regional coordinator, going to all these different schools. Gladstone High School has a wood shop that's kind of been shuttered for quite a little while. It's a huge asset, that kind of what are you proud of? So Oregon City, just down the road, has an awesome wood shop and construction shop that's going great, or so do we here at Sabin-Schellenberg. But getting that group of people together to communicate that, what are you proud of? What are you excited about? Might be that thing for whenever there's a new principal at Gladstone or other leadership at Gladstone to go, oh, we have this huge asset right here. And we have a network of people around us who can give us some feedback, give us some insight as we try to develop it. So one of our questions, kind of just real entry point of what are some short-term needs or goals or things that you're proud about. Tell us about your experience with community college partners or getting a program of study off the ground. What's that been like? Kind of using that as an organizational theory approach to this as well, of a piece that I've learned real quickly. You learn a lot about who has power in a district by asking some really oddball questions like, hey, how does a new book get approved for an English class? How does that happen? That'll tell you real quick who has the power to authorize things or veto things. Because yeah, there's an official process, but it really might be like, oh, we just asked the secretary and she just orders it. Okay, cool. So we tried to create our questions to elicit those kinds of side door responses that maybe would reflect the official organized structures, but also would maybe give us a little bit of insight to those slightly side door structures that also really make things run. Because as we are all aware, respect the secretary. They are frequently the most important person in the building. So trying to design these questions in a way that's going to give us a really in-depth view of what's going on. So that was a big piece of what we talked about. That was a big piece of what we thought about interviewing. Ben, it looks like you're ready to jump back in a little bit.
Yeah. I wanted to say that we had conversations around, what do centralized pools of information look like? What do the network CTE sharing networks look like? Who are having these conversations? Who's collaborating? Who's networking and how they're networking? And one thing I found out through email conversation with Southern Oregon Educational Service District, Carla Clark and Brian Robinson, is that there are a lot of incredible things happening in Southern Oregon in terms of career technical education and the types of communication that are happening, and the different boards and groups and advisory panels, and the connection between the workforce boards and there's just folks like me that are on the periphery don't really have a clear view of all these amazing things that are happening. So it makes me wonder, well, what about the community? What about parents? How do they know that all these great things are happening? And so we talked a lot about communicating these amazing things that are happening in our communities and our schools with our students. Hal Jones, as an example, talked about how they're going to be placing some students into industry jobs this spring, some graduating seniors. And so he has yet to connect me with those students. I'm going to interview them and post that video here in the notes at some point. But point being, there's a lot of amazing things happening. It's just the system for sharing needs to be improved so that more people can peek inside this incredible world that's CTE.
I think that covers what I've got to share as well. So I think that wraps it up from my end. Unless Ben, if you have something else to share, unless people have questions for us.
Or folks in our subcommittee want to share out.
I have a question. Is this where this sounds like great work that you're doing? You're gathering information. It sounds the kind of information that you're gathering and the kind of gaps and the need for communication and sharing, those bright spots around the state. Or I think you'd find similarly, within the regions you spoke to, you'd probably find similar information and collaboration taking place around the state. And I'm wondering, and maybe Janelle has an answer to this. There's some work happening for the middle school with the middle school focus of the career connected learning work to build out, what is happening around the state for the whole umbrella of career connected learning, of awareness, exploration, preparation, and training. But there's a big focus right now in that middle school section to build out what is happening, just similarly to what you're describing, what is happening at that high school level. And so I'm wondering if there's going to be, or if there's already a plan to integrate, because as career connected learning is preparing a web-based platform and preparing that research with that focus for awareness and exploration at the middle school level, but also that broader full picture, will this group be sharing or integrating with, the team for that fuller big picture and with what that platform will be? Because some of what you're describing, there's a group, one of the design teams for career connected learning is focusing on high school career awareness and exploration and so forth. And so I'm just wondering if anybody from this team or these work groups have been in contact with them, or if there's already going to be an integration.
We have not, I don't think, been in contact with them yet, but I mean, yeah, as this would be rolled out or shared or things like that, yes, we would want to make sure that we are integrated with that, which I think would be something we could do, as Janelle touched on earlier, of that career connected learning person being a part of, how do we want to communicate and to what levels and to the variety of levels that we would want to be responsible to. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'd be happy to put you in contact with that design team too, in case you want to make sure you're not siloing. And I don't think you're siloing intentionally. I'm just saying, I'm wondering if it sounds like you guys have a great conversation with that team.
Carla, this brings up a great need. Is there a PR person for CTE in the state? Is there someone whose job it is to find these stories and to communicate those?
Well, so Janelle mentioned a little bit earlier with the career journey videos. There is some work happening right now building out career journey videos for around the state. There were 10 that were done last year. We are preparing as soon as the funding gets approved from DOJ to move forward with launching 20 more that will be done to feature different sectors. There'll be near peer videos with young people in their 20s that are in their career that went through our pathways. That's just one layer. And so that's happening. And that is the funding, took place for the first 10. We're preparing for the next 20. And I do have a link I could share with all of you if you have recommendations for other people around the state, because we have polls. We only did 10 so far, and we were looking at doing 20 more in the summer and into the fall. That is one area of where I know of some, I guess, consolidated, consistent marketing that's happening that we're trying to get started. That same team that's building out those videos is working on a design team for what would this web-based platform look like. And they're gathering information from the different design teams to map out what career connected learning looks like around the state of Oregon and what could it look like, to show what those bright lights are around the state, because every region is different. While there's strengths and weaknesses in different areas and equity, when we take a look at what the communities look like in all these different regions, it's different. So making that information available and accessible so people can see where they are, but also see maybe if they'd like to grow, who might they model and what might look familiar and what could they see if they wanted to move forward.
See, this is great. This makes me want to scream from the rooftops that this amazing thing is happening. And it reminds me of this conversation I just had with a PR person from Eagle Point School District who's new to the job, who wanted to find out about what I was doing, you know, with their media arts teacher. And he was saying, all I'm trying to do is go on a needs finding mission here to find out the great things that Eagle Point School District is doing so I can trumpet that out to the community. I feel like there's a similar need here with CTE in the state of Oregon. What you're talking about is amazing. So who's going to take that and put that on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, send that to all the regional coordinators, all the building folks. Maybe that'll even reach emerging CTE teachers, like Ivan Olinghouse at Hedrick Middle School, who's very interested in becoming a CTE teacher, but it feels like totally disconnected. So I think this is important. I think we're engaging in an empathy stage, kind of human-centered design process right now, where we realize there's a lot going on and we need to like define and ideate what that system of sharing would look like from like a PR standpoint. I'd like to have a greater conversation in our subcommittee about that, because these resources you're talking about, Carla, they got to get out to everyone. And I'm sure everyone has resources, whether it's you know, posters or videos or handouts relating to their own program that also need to get out. And we need to decide how we do that, you know, at local level, mid-tier building and ESD level to, you know, statewide level.
The two words, exciting and daunting. And so I think in respect to the short time we have here and so forth, let's move, if we can, into the next area, which I think is the student report. Is that correct? Student advisory team. So let me turn this over, and then we can, please do keep this conversation going, because now there's starting to also be interplay between the committees, and you're going to hear some common themes, by the way, when we talk about alignment here in a couple of minutes. So Melinda, you want to take the next one?
Right, thank you. And thank you for all the great work that the subcommittees are doing. As you can see, there's a lot of work going on in between meetings. And so we really appreciate everyone's participation in that. And I will say, if you're not already on a subcommittee and you would like to be, please do get in touch with me and I can get you connected to any of the subcommittees. So we have a new one that I just kind of started. Pete and Edith and I, our two current students that are on the council, are putting our heads together, and we are hoping to create a student advisory team, kind of a subcommittee for this, sort of an ongoing group that will meet and take part in a lot of these discussions and help us to bring student voice to all of the decisions that we're making. And so we are working on marketing materials and an interest form right now. So, you know, we'll start the recruitment process, and then those that are interested will fill out an interest form for us. And then we're also working with our ODE and HEC partners to look at how to compensate students for their time and their travel. We're hoping at some point we'll get into in-person meetings. And so, you know, so we're working on that. We're thinking of some innovative things. I know Celia's working really hard with me on checking with some other folks that could help potentially sponsor students and things like that. So hopefully we'll have some more information around that at some point. But do let us know if you have any ideas. We're more than welcome to take additional ideas or suggestions or leads that we can follow up on. The hope is that we will have about 10 students from across the state at both the secondary and post-secondary level. And once we get those materials ready, and once we've sort of figured out the compensation piece, we're probably not going to recruit until we figure out the compensation piece, just because we do really want to be able to compensate students for their time and participation. So, but once we're kind of ready with that, I will make sure that I share all of that with all of you all so that you can help spread the word and help us with recruitment. And then also, if you are interested at all in helping with this particular project, you're welcome to join this team as well. I just wanted to give you a heads up that these are evening meetings. You know, working with students, got to work on their time. So, so if you're interested in that, please let me know. Does anybody have any questions really quickly before we head into a break around the student advisory team?
Yeah, thank you, Melinda. I was just gonna add the PR team, and you guys did fantastic, and I really appreciate all the work that you guys put together. I do also want to kind of break the bridge where we only continue talking to the educators when it comes to college or high school or middle school. There is essential work that is done by the CPOs, nonprofit organizations based on the schools. And a lot of time, they are the go-getters. They are the one working for those students after school programs. They have that personal connection that normally they don't have with their teachers and the school system. And sometimes when the students in the class, they're disciplined in a way that they have to be behavior, but as soon as they left that and they start, be part of their, after school programs and tutoring and so on with the leadership groups, they're open up and they talk about, they're not doing well in this class. I'd rather have, different paths, but I don't know who to talk to it. And that's all what the CTE is all about. How do we find out those individuals who are not connected deeply in these schools or educations or like the 4 years degree that we all, most of us think about that is essential. It is not anymore. I think there's a lot of opportunity that CTA teams, community kind of dig, deeper and understand about. I want to find those individuals who are really have a different opinion and what kind of workforce or, careers that they want to develop. So I think Ben, you mentioned a little bit about the parents and Kurt is also the same, but we had to maybe focus more into how do we reach out to those are unreachable, and those are the parents, the immigrant to refugees, communities that their kids never went to college and they are not able to go to college because of they're behind. They got here at 15 years old. By then they're looking for careers that they want to develop instead of going 4 years college. So we want to give that opportunity to those people who don't have a voice. So that's what I would add to the group. And I think every group that I don't think I'm a part of any committee. Melinda, I was traveling and I just returned recently, but I don't mind joining any committee at this moment, whichever is needed. But I do want to make sure that we were sending this information down to the communities that don't understand or don't even know how to reach on the state level. What is available in the state level? If everything in the state level, unless they have to Google it, they might not even to find out. Even the college, these are not available. We as an organization offer scholarships, and a lot of them is individual community members, donors who are given those individuals, and sometimes it's hard to get those additional advice and additional support. And I think we can do a better job for communicating that to our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamal, for bringing that up. I've tried to capture the things in the notes. You're welcome to pop in there to make sure I've captured that accurately. And I'll touch base with you and you can let me know which committee you might be interested in joining. Appreciate that. And I see that, I think Carla, you're saying that you wanted to be involved in the student advisory team. I'm sorry, I didn't see which.
Yes, that would be great.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break before we jump into our deep dive into the alignment subcommittee's work. So if you'd like to take a bio break, go get some coffee, anything like that, we'll reconvene at 10:10. Give you 10 minutes.
Great.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Carla. I did actually add a link to the Good of the Order. I'm just not sure if it's the same one. So I connected to the Career Journeys website and then the Career Journeys YouTube channel.
Oh, cool. Perfect.
Like that's the same one, I think. Okay, awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. I just want to make
Okay.
sure we have the same one or if I should add that one into.
Okay. And Ben, I'm reading your chat.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Ben, I wanted to just quickly, this is Charlie. I just wanted to thank you for your comments and so forth. Also, I have a fond heart. I was born and raised down in the Rogue Valley. So, and oftentimes I remember this seemingly void between Southern Oregon and the Portland metro area and so forth. But you guys have been rocking it down in the Rogue Valley area for so long. It's just great efforts.
Well, I have to give propers to folks like Carla and Brian Robinson and Hal Jones. They are movers and shakers. They're really involved.
Yeah.
And I wish that I was more involved, but I'm learning how to. I mean, I'm in my own silo here, but
yeah.
But anyhow, thank you, and it's beautiful down here, and I hope I can live here forever. My wife just got like $40,000 in scholarships to PNCA, so I might have to move. I don't want to.
Yeah, it's a great spot. It was tragic with all the fires and so forth that occurred over the last couple of years, and so I remember that as a kid, and we would have a forest fire and seemed to be got put out relatively quickly, but it's not the case these days. So.
No, it's very different, and actually about a third of my hometown talent burnt down. I'm living there right now, and there are two kids that lost homes that are in a Student Reporting Labs club here at the station, and they're doing a report on where they're at, and they're kind of representative of 350 students that Phoenix Talent Schools are missing right now. They've lost them to other school districts because they haven't been able to move back into the community. So there's still a lot of attention that needs to be brought back to that issue. How are we helping?
It's interesting. The tragedy of that event is we focus on the event, but then it's the after effects of it, and the years of rebuilding that goes behind that. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, someone sent a message to me saying that they think that many rural regions feel the disconnect from Portland and Salem area. Seems like there's a real intentional focus to draw on rural lately. Yeah, that's an interesting point. We got a grant 5 years ago that focused on that point to try to integrate rural educators in rural communities to media arts. And I know there's a lot out there too. But yeah, I feel disconnected from Portland and Salem and what's happening up north.
Yeah. Well, there's Oregon's amazing, again, being born and raised here. Oregon is an amazing state with incredible resources and beauty and so forth, but a lot of kind of physical detachment as well. So.
Yeah. And Charlie, if you think of any jobs that kind of relate to these topics we've been talking about today, send them my way, because I'm looking for work in Salem and Portland area. And I'd like to stay in the CTE world, and I'd like to stay in this, I'd like to be, connective tissue between folks in different silos, if I could figure out work in that area. Anyhow.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm making a note of that.
My job coach and I have been working on a, what does he call it? A networking resume. So if you send me an email, I can send that to you, and then you can send it on to folks that might want to hire a former teacher and then now someone who has 5 years of experience in media.
Yeah.
I'm just going to test my share real quick, Melinda.
Oh, great. Boom.
Perfect. Everyone can see that?
Yeah. Can you go full screen with it, you think?
Yes.
I can see it.
Perfect.
I realized I was muted. You said, can everyone see that? I'm like, yes, I can. And then I'm like,
Channeling your inner Bob the Builder.
right.
Hey, Lonnie, thank you, by the way, for doing some pinch hitting here this morning.
Yeah, no problem. I am going to go relatively quickly through the trivia. So
Great, great. All right, looks like we've got people starting to drop back in here.
Yeah, we got like 2 minutes left.
oh, well, then I'm going to go back on mute.
Okay.
Hey, Melinda.
Yes.
I kind of wanted to be part of this whiteboard, but I need to step out. So will I be able to see the jam boards? Like, will they be things that we can look at? And maybe I can add to it.
There should be.
I do have some things I wanted to sort of include for that, how to connect.
Yeah, there should be links in the minutes when we're done.
And also, in terms of meeting in person or not, I saw that there. If it's manageable, it might be cool to do it once, but I'm not sure I would want to do it consistently because you lose a lot of time. We're all very busy. So anyway, that's my thought. Unless we're all very close to I-5 or something, which I sort of doubt that. I have no idea where everybody is. So anyway, that's my thought.
Thank you for your input. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rosa. All right, it looks like it's 10:10. I'm gonna go ahead and turn things over to Charlie and the alignment subcommittee.
Great. Well, you'll likely hear a lot of alignment here in this conversation with what Ben just brought up and Curtis in regard to communication, and I think there's a great cross collateralization. But our goal today really is to both inform, but then spend the bulk of our time utilizing all of your respective backgrounds, up to, by the way, and including the students that we have online. I'm glad to see you. But we want to help to brainstorm how we proceed as a committee. The focus of our group, of course, is alignment, which is a huge topic. And when you begin to think of individuals and approaches and systems and regions, it gets really complex. And I think that theme has gone through this morning. Lots of great work which is being done in both schools as well as regions, as well as statewide. But I think therein lies part of the issue that we want to kind of address. One of the pieces that I'll bring into the conversation that I took away from the Talent Summit last week was the fact that one of our speakers really talked about how do you proceed in the development of kind of either gathering groups or getting things aligned and so forth. And one of the first ways to do that is to kind of quote unquote get organized. I mean, that's a simple topic, right? But you've got to get organized. And as we as a group talked about alignment and so forth, we really struggled because getting organized also turns into solving world peace. And so the process is again very complex. But what we really want to try to figure out is how do we approach that? And in our mind, the first thing that popped up is to say we need a map. We need a map that explains and to all of the different communities that we have how does CTE work from K through post-secondary. And so the concept again started to grow and move and so forth. And so we need your help today in kind of taking a look at the complexity, having a little bit of fun in the process, which I'm going to turn it over to Kaylani here in just a second, and then kind of work from there. But to kind of illustrate perhaps some of the complexity and so forth, Clay, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second. Plays with the Workforce Talent Development Board.
Thanks, Charlie. Yes, you have mentioned all of the things that we have talked about, and it truly is, very complex when you add in, the multiple layers of people who want to access information and how they might want to see a map created. And each of those different populations may have different ideas of what should be on the map and how it should be communicated and what type of information to make it is presented in order to make it clear and effective. I'm going to show you quickly an example that kind of gets to some of this complexity. So hopefully, so this is a sort of Oregon famous chart that Representative Reardon developed a few years back, trying to describe the workforce system. And one of the things that was that's immediately obvious is that this is a very complex system, and this doesn't even include the whole thing. If you, in one sense, there's sort of this public workforce system that shows up in workforce centers across the state, but then you add in sort of the whole post-secondary system. You add in some of the other things that typically don't get included in the workforce system, but then this whole thing misses a host of community-based and culturally specific organizations that support the workforce system in many ways and are actually integral to its success. This is called the spaghetti chart for obvious reasons, and I would say it's really only effective in sort of demonstrating the complexity of the system. It's not a map that can be effectively used by anyone to sort of access the system. And I think that one of the things that we realized is that there really does need to be a clear map that people can follow that represents things like the differences between regions in the state, the differences between different interested parties in the CTE system. There are students and parents, there are professionals trying to navigate, there are within professionals trying to navigate, there are folks who are going to be focused on communications, and there are folks who are going to be focused on delivery of services, and a variety of others. There are folks that are interested in curriculum development and where the resources are and sharing those resources and how to set that up. There are folks in the workforce system here who would like to be able to align with and help support with employment opportunities and connections to jobs and potentially other training and other supportive resources. So all these different entities need a map, and So what that really speaks to, and I'm going to stop sharing, is something that's actually not like your traditional fold out roadmap or like that one page attempt at the workforce system, but something that's more of a tool that can respond to different audiences and that can provide the information that they need, and then allow them to sort of get a deeper dive wherever they need more information. And so that speaks to a map per se, but kind of a three-dimensional map that allows different folks to access at different levels. It allows for deeper dives where you need to go. And so this is kind of the conversation that we're having now, but we need your help in trying to identify what the critical components are, where the connection points are, how it can best be developed to be successful with a multitude of users. So just a little bit of an example of the task at hand, and I'll turn it back to you, Charlie.
Great, thanks, Clay, very much. So to help us maybe understand a little bit more about the complexity and have some fun and so forth, I'm going to turn it over to Kaylani, who has kind of a fun exercise for all of us to take a look at and do together.
All right, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Megan and her partnership with Debbie Johnson and Ed Woods from NWEC for building the trivia game that we are about to play. We're going to move real quickly through this. We're going to use the chat and we're going to use voice. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to answer it. You are going to track your answers. For every answer that you get correctly, you're going to give yourself 1 point. So let's get started. Actually, I should probably make sure I have the answers up too. All right. Question 1. How can federal Carl Perkins $5 be used? You have 4 options. Go ahead and put your answer in the chat or feel free to shout it out. All right, we got some answers rolling in. You are all Curtis. Good answer. A is correct. Everybody but Curtis, give yourself a point. Question 2, what are education service districts? Go ahead and shout it out or throw your answers in the chat. All right, I'm seeing a lot of C's. You are correct. Ooh, there's some D's too. Maybe that's correct too. Maybe it's a really complicated system. If you have answered C or D, go ahead and give yourself a point. Next question. What does the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, the heck, do in relation to the Oregon Department of Education, ODE? All right, I see some answers rolling in. Give it another couple seconds. Bonus points if you said C, because what the heck. But the correct answer is B. If you answered that correctly, go ahead and give yourself a point. Next question. Where is the best place to get information about work-based learning requirements in Oregon? This one has a couple right answers. So the answer to this one is D, both A and C, depending on your regional coordinator. If you got it right, give yourself a point. All right, next question. How does the CTE program of study benefit high school students? I'm seeing a lot of real fast responses here. All right, you are correct. D, all of the above and more. CTE programs of study are rad. Points if you got that correct. Next question. What does Measure 98 fund? Everybody is on it today. You all are correct. It is D. Give yourself a point. Next question. Why is a pre-apprenticeship program important in the high school? Oh yes, thank you, Janelle. Measure 98 / high school success. Again, correct, y'all. D, all of the above. Pre-apprenticeship programs, also rad. Just so you all know, I missed that word from the 90s. I'm trying to bring it back. So if you could contribute, that would be great. Next question. What is the difference between alignment and articulation? This is a hard one. Thanks, Ben. All right, y'all. Technically, the right answer is both B and C. So if you got either of those correct, go ahead and give yourself a point. Next question. What can career pathway dollars purchase? All right, seeing some answers roll in. The correct answer is D, both A and C. Technically, you're not supposed to be using the career pathways funds to buy teachers barbecue pits, at least not for personal use. If you're doing it as part of a culinary program, you could absolutely do that. So that was the last question. If you want to add up your points, and if you got any more than 1 point, then you are officially declared a winner for the day. You know, one thing I think that, thanks, Clay. One thing that I think that became really clear when we were looking through the questions, and in my experience as a regional coordinator, you know, what we do, CTE is at the center of it all. And we're really kind of trying to connect as a regional coordinator, the students in the CTE programs with the community colleges, business and industry, and school districts. This is what pops into my head immediately when I think alignment. But then one of the things that I'm still learning, to our opening question, every day I learn about a new acronym. We're asking students, parents, counselors, career counselors, regional coordinators, new navigators, administrators to all start to learn and navigate this system, which is an acronym soup. I think someone said someone in Oregon once put together an acronym dictionary, or tried to, and there were over 3,000 different acronyms, many of which overlapped. You know, we've got high school CTE programs of study. I didn't use the acronym for that because it's HSCTEPOS. ODE, Education Service Districts, the heck, BOLI ATD, workforce boards. WIOA, WTDB, LWDB, OE, WSO, CCWD. As you can see, a little bit of a hot mess. So when we're talking about mapping, we're talking about the audience and the people that are trying to navigate these systems. We're really talking about how do we give them a tool? How do we help them navigate this system? If you're a parent and you're looking at this, what the heck? It is the opposite of rad. How do you help your student navigate this system? You know, at that point in time, it really becomes who you know and who can explain it to you. And as we know, that network of knowledge tends to be inequitable. The people with the knowledge tend to be people that have already gone through the system, and people new to the system or new to navigating it. It's so much harder for them to get through the system. So thank you for your participation in the trivia. And thank you for having to look at my hot mess of acronyms.
Yeah, we're going to get back into the navigation here pretty quick. Special shout out, by the way, just prior to our next presenter, Heather Fix. Heather is, and I saw your new child in your arms just a couple moments ago, but she gets the ribbon for participating with a brand new baby. So anyway, congratulations, Heather, to you. But I'm going to turn it over to Heather to really, I'm not sure how many people have perhaps seen the Hillsborough roadmap, but I'm going to turn it over to Heather to talk about that a little bit. So it's just to kind of get the concept into your mind. Heather.
Hello, thank you. So I'm a little sleep deprived. So my baby arrived Friday night. So doing the best, and thanks for my team for being understanding. I shared an idea and then I went MIA due to sub shortages and having to fill in the district there, and then had the baby. So we'll try this piece. So I've been part of CTE conversations and teams for over 15 years. I was over in the Clackamas school district for a while, or Clackamas County for a while, and then have moved over to the Hillsborough area. This is my first year in Hillsborough, but I'm really enjoying the work that they have done around CTE and then the career to college learning and planning. So when we're talking about roadmaps from the education lens, needing some of those connections to come early with elementary school connections and how the skills are being developed in elementary school forward into high school. My background, again, as a high school counselor, sometimes it was too late when I was working with students to develop their resumes, and they're like, well, I don't have anything, I haven't done anything. So one of my big dreams is that we start building those resumes early in elementary school. Like what skills do students need to be a line leader? What skills do they need to be? Now that I've subbed a whole bunch in elementary school, I have some better lingo of what to use. So I was introduced to that, like, what does it take to be a door holder? And really bringing that awareness to students and parents. And I think, you know, we had the crash of 2008, and now with the pandemic, I'm seeing that trend with high schoolers, especially of they don't want to do until they know it's 100%. Like, I'm not going to apply to this college until I know that that's the place I'm going to go. I'm not going to apply to this job until I know that that's the place I want to go. So I think providing some of these maps early will help. And I was going to share, I have some of the links up. The easiest way to do is link it. So I'll share my screen. Maybe now it wants to open system. Oh, shoot. I might, Charlie, have you share your screen and click the links. I don't.
I can, Heather. Do you want which do you want first?
Let's do the CCCP or that was too many C's, the 2Cs roadmap.
Sounds good.
That's up. So starting with something like we were talking about roadmaps, and I know there's lots of different layers, but this also kind of goes back to what Janelle was talking about earlier, and then what's happening in middle school. So be excited to work with the other committees there of what are those pieces that we're doing in elementary school? How do they connect with career talk and helping our parents or our families with those conversations? And then that thread through onto the 12th grade year and how that is building. And where this also intersects with the work that's happening at ODE around social emotional learning. So how this is all tying together within that educational setting. So they have the self-awareness, the self-management, or all those social emotional learning verbiages. And I like how Hillsborough has created this common thread. And I think as we're working together within this group, then we can also build in those access points of what Clay was talking about, then we can have those industry pieces of like, okay, so where could I find a job? So if you could then click on the timeline link. So then this really then focuses kind of that conversation. I like this with, and it actually tied in with the middle school piece. So in 7th grade, we really start to lay that foundation for success. And I think that helps where this timeline of what's happening here in this committee, and then also where we can tie it in with industry, that transition from middle school to high school. Sometimes it's clunky for that 9th grade year of not only are students trying to figure out what high school is all about because it's moving faster and there's different requirements, but then we hit them with a, hey, welcome to high school. What do you want to do after high school? And I remember meeting with my 9th graders, and then their eyes are like giant saucers of it, you know, and their parents or guardians or their responsible adult, you know, they're like, we just started high school. What do you mean we're talking about what comes next in that post-secondary planning? And that's a big word. And why are we doing that? So if we can share with not only our industry partners, but our students and our families of like, hey, this is the plan and this is what we're doing, and start to share it in 7th grade, it makes for that smoother transition and what we're talking about. And I also think it helps to, because the other, where I'm hoping and seeing these roadmaps help in education, for a lot of years, there's been a divide of like, you're either going to go career or you're going 4-year college. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Hopefully, if you're going to 4-year college, you're also talking about careers. So careers really, and that career talk should be the overarching talk. And then that backwards planning of like, okay, so these are the careers you're interested in. These are the timelines we use to help have those conversations of the appropriate education to get to the career that you're interested in. And then if you could click on the elementary, the ES Century Business. So I had to throw in some letters. Elementary school, ES is just elementary school. So this is just an example, and I really liked again how Hillsborough is working on this. So they've taken our CTE pathways that are available in the district and created these one-pagers for each pathway for an element to be used at elementary school and then to be used at secondary, which includes middle school and high school. So this is an example of the one-pager for one of the programs at Century High School. Very appropriate elementary school language. Teachers could use this in like parent-teacher conferences or in a lesson. And then it has the overview of what they need, that the degrees of what to talk to. And prior to my experience, the last couple of months in elementary school, I would have been like, oh, these are big words for kids. But I have to say, there was a 4th grade class. I'm a counselor and storyteller, so I'll make it quick, but this fourth grade class was one of the few when I told them what I did. Like, I'm a high school counselor. I'm going to try to do fourth grade today. And they're like, I shared a little bit about what high school counselors do. We spent like 45 minutes talking about post-secondary plans with this fourth grade class. They were so cool. Wanted to know about careers, how they could get a successful career. What were the skills that they needed to do? What does college look like? What does high school planning look like? So I connected them with one of the admissions advisors at PCC. And this would have been really fun to pull some of these, again, if I was a little bit more prepared to teach fourth grade, but pull some of these one pagers in with that class and be like, hey, let's check this out. Here are the employers in the area. So if I knew my class was interested in a couple different careers, as a teacher, I could use those potential local employers and start to bring in some guest speakers at the elementary school level. So that was where I got excited about those pieces. But if we can create some of these one pagers out of this group in that multidimensional map that like Clay was talking about, it could be a really powerful resource across the state. And then we have the high school one pager. And this same information with a high school focus. So has the different pathways. This adds in the local colleges and majors, so where students could go, what they could do. Again, a powerful tool. I would have loved to have this in the schools I had worked in prior. I've been in a small district in Molalla, Beaverton School District, and now Hillsborough. This would have been very, very powerful. At Molalla, we didn't have the manpower to create this at the district office level. So being able in a group like this for the ODE, like how can we create some of these with the work that's happening in these subgroups? How can we create some of these one pagers with our industry partners to help out the smaller districts with those conversations? And then using that forward with some of the larger districts that are doing this is can we steal from it? Because the structure that's at Hillsborough, and I know it's exciting, we do have an elementary school career focused TOSA. So she's helping to develop programs to support elementary school conversations. She has cool flashcards, curriculum available for teachers who need it. And then we have a middle school, high school TOSA, so teacher on special assignment, who's helping with this type of information and education at the high school level. So again, that's not, I guess goes back to our equity team. That's not a resource available at some of our smaller districts and schools, and we need to wrap it up. So that's the work around some ideas.
Great. I think the primary thing there is to really just give you kind of a conceptual model as we go into the brainstorming session and so forth. So Melinda is going to pop us into the brainstorming, and Kaylani has got things set up. And for the members of our committee, hang on, don't pop into a room. We're going to get assigned after Melinda is ready to throw us into that. But this next process really is now really having you focus in on some questions. Kaylani, do you want to quickly go over the questions?
Yes. Apologies for the noise in the background. We're going to ask 4 basic questions. The first should be really quick. It's quick check-in from us. Are the mapping and navigation tools a goal worth pursuing? Is this a track that we should continue to follow? Will this be useful to you? 2, who is the audience? In your experience and in your work, who would we need to reach with a tool like this? And please feel free to name multiple partners. Maybe it's your regional coordinator, maybe it's your school admins, maybe it's students and parents. Dream big. 3, who or what partners, groups, CBOs should be on the map? One thing that we've discovered, me talking to Clay, talking to Charlie, talking to Megan, talking to Heather, is that we are all working with a huge network of different people. And so we really need to, as Charlie said earlier, start to organize. And the last question, is there a specific way you would like this map to function? We've been talking about geospatial, online, click. Are there any thoughts around that that you can add? And the Jamboard will be open if you think of things later and would like to add them.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the rooms. You should get an invitation. And again, subcommittee, stay around and I will assign you.
Sounds good. Group 1, if you could work on board 1, group 2, board 2, group 3, board 3, etc.
Okay, so here we go. They all got cut off. Oh no. You can tell when people don't come back from breakout rooms very quickly that everyone is still talking. So I apologize, but we are just about out of time and I just want to be respectful and let everyone get to where they need to go. But it sounds like we were having some robust conversations. I'm sure the committee will come up with a way for us to engage in more opportunities to give feedback to the group. We will add the slides. The Jamboard is there. You can always pop in and add more things to that at any point. I did just want to bring a couple of things to people's attention. We don't have time to talk about meeting logistics and the potential of moving to in-person meetings, so I'll just develop a survey and send that out to folks to get your feedback on your thoughts around that. And then I did just want to let you know that we put quite a few links in the announcements or good of the order. Actually, Jamal, one of the things that you brought up earlier was that a lot of folks who aren't connected to education may not be aware of the new statewide program of study, knowledge and skills sets and things like that. And so we did want to go ahead and add in quite a bit of information there if you're interested in learning more. So we've got an overview of the framework, frequently asked questions, and then we have a resource guide and the knowledge and skill statements for each of the first 4 statewide programs of study that we put out. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. Also, another thing that came up in the communication subcommittee is that not everybody knows that they can subscribe to the ODE CTE update. So I've got a link for you to do that there. And then the Oregon Workforce and Talent Development Board Essential Employability Skills Report is also linked there because that was another area that folks wanted to make sure people were aware of. And then those career journey videos and that website, the YouTube channel that Carla alluded to earlier, are also in there for you to go in and look at those first 10 videos if you'd like to. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of all of those links because there's a lot of information there. You're welcome to peruse those things. And then just a reminder, our next meeting will be in July. The subcommittee groups will continue to meet in between there and continue their great work and letting us know what they're up to. So
look at her. She puts 10 minutes worth of content into a minute and a half.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
You bet. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.